Greetings and merry meet. Have you ever sensed a need to shift your approach to life and work? Well, today's guest invites us to step into our power, our potential, and our truth. I'm Dr. Kathryn Bingham, founder of LeadUP, supporting executives, entrepreneurs, and professionals in elevating their leadership, reinventing, redesigning, or pivoting, and changing their life, their work, and the world. I'm also the author of Driving Pink. But today I have Andrea DeWitt, an author, speaker, and coach who supports heart-centered working professionals who feel that call to chase a dream, create something new in their life, or transform something that's no longer working. So our lead-up conversation today focuses on Andrea's new book, and let me tilt it so we can actually see. There we go. Name, Claim, and Reframe. Your path to a well-lived life. Andrea, welcome.
Thank you, Kathryn. I'm excited to be here.
Awesome. Awesome. So we've all had that sense of wanting something more, something different, and may even recognize when our current approach isn't working for us. So maybe tell us a bit about the journey that led you to where you have now written and published this new book, Name, Claim, and Reframe.
Well, I always start by saying, I just turned 60 in 2022, and I say that I am proof that it is never too late and you are not too old to live your dream, because I'm living mine now. I had a 32-year career as an academic, everything from teaching school to working at the college level. And it was great. It was going great. And then I got to the point where my values and what I loved and all of that wasn't matching up where I was and the identity of where I was. And I talk about false identities, and suddenly I realized this isn't working. And it's a rub. And I think that a lot of people in life go through that, where they think, ooh, what am I going to do? And if I pivot, am I going to disappoint people? And will I be able to be successful? And will people take me seriously? And I had that happen in my early 50s. And I listened to my gut, and I think we should always listen to our gut. And I took a leap of faith, and I bet on myself. And I released my cloak of academia. I left academia, and I went back to school to earn my coaching, my life coaching certification, and started a coaching practice in my early 50s. And I thought, A, am I smart enough? Will people laugh at me? Will I be able to make money?
Mm-hmm.
All those things. And I did it, and I am proof, really, because I've done the work, and out of the work came my book. Was the Name, Claim, and Reframe system, because I did all those things to get where I am now. And I'm really living a well-lived life, because a well-lived life doesn't mean that it's perfect, but it means you know exactly where you are,
Mm-hmm.
and you have taken your power back in a resourceful, strategic, and graceful way.
That's awesome.
And so there it is.
I love it. I love it. And I love that you share the pivot. I have this real passion around pivoting, and we'll maybe talk more about that in a little bit more of our conversation. But what I'd like you to do is help our audience understand the Name, Claim, and Reframe framework and why these are important.
Yes, and I think that's thank you for asking that, because I think it is confusing. What does that mean? It sounds fun, name, claim, and reframe. But what it means is that you name and gain awareness of your triggers, or the things that are holding you back.
Mm-hmm.
Why are you reacting to adversity instead of responding to it? So that's the naming step. The claim is choosing resonant actions that match up with your core values.
Okay.
When we know what our core values are, our core beliefs, it's much easier to see where we want to go and then keep sacred the things that are most important. And I think we're going to talk today about energetic boundaries, and
Yes.
when I talk
Yes.
about core values and energetic boundaries are connected. And then the reframe, you cannot reframe unless you've named and claimed. And the reframe comes when you really are able to shift your perspective and look at the situation you're in as an opportunity to gain new insights and separate your ego and look at the big picture. And when we do that, we're really able to harvest the learning, because there's learning in everything, especially the hard things. And that reframe is really where the rubber meets the road. So name, claim, and reframe. There it is in a nutshell,
Awesome.
Kathryn.
Awesome. You know, one of the things that you talk about early on in the book, and I love the term, the gentle warrior, right? You describe aligning behaviors as masculine or feminine, above the line or below the line. How does this work?
I first want to give a shout out to Conscious Leadership Group, because they came up with the terms of are you above the line, which is you're having a natural response, or are you below the line? And so that's where this concept of above the line and below the line works. Every single person, whether you're masculine, or you're a male, a female, or you, however you identify, it's because our masculine leadership traits and our feminine leadership traits are non-binary. Both men, women, or however you identify have them. And so what the whole idea of looking at our masculine or feminine leadership traits and how are we responding to adversity or reacting to it is really the concept of it. So let's talk to you for a minute. Let's use you as our guinea pig, Kathryn. So when you think of your positive, and you've seen my chart that I have in the book, my
Yes.
balance your response chart. When you think of the positive masculine above the line traits that you have, what are they? What would you say they are?
Well, I'm pretty assertive and forward in my, I have a lot of courage, and I'm not afraid to take risks and try things. So
Risk taker.
I am a risk taker. I am a risk taker.
So
In fact,
those are all incredible. I mean, you talked about courage and being visionary and being assertive and taking risks. I mean, those are all incredible masculine traits. And I mean, leadership, we need those traits.
That's right.
And when I'm gonna put myself on the spot. I'm not gonna put you on the spot. I have those qualities too. But when I was threatened, when I really started looking at my own leadership qualities, when I was threatened and I was reacting, I might get, and this is below the line, a wounded response, I might get territorial, or I might get patronizing, or I might be overpowering, or I might get controlling, which are below the line masculine traits. And so what a conscious leader does is a conscious leader goes, oh, I'm getting controlling. This is an opportunity for me to come above the line.
Exactly.
In the book, I talked about the fact that I had been so masculine that I hadn't really looked at my above the line feminine traits. And when you think about feminine leadership, and both men and women have it, I think, and I always give this caveat, the best negotiators, people that have success with negotiating, bring a lot of feminine energy into their negotiation, because that means they're listening, they're receptive, they're creating consensus, which
They're
are
collaborative in the communication process. Yep.
And I found with many of my female clients that were really trying to step into their leadership, they have had very strong emotional intelligence, and yet they were afraid to show their emotions at work, or to be empathic, to see, oh, this person's having trouble. I can see that they're struggling, and checking in. And I would always say, but wait a minute, that's what makes you an incredible leader, because you're seeing what's going on. Masculine energy is more about doing, where feminine energy is more about being.
Mm-hmm.
Let's talk a little bit about the subterranean things in below the line feminine energy, because this is the part that I think makes my skin crawl, and I own this. When we are below the line feminine, we can become catty,
Mm-hmm.
gossipy, we can be passive aggressive, we can be codependent, we can compare ourselves to other people and get insecure and needy. And so those, you can see the difference between being above the line and responding to adversity and being below the line and reacting. And that's
Yes.
what I'm really introducing to people. I think the choice to respond instead of reacting.
And I think there's a nuance that's important to distinguish, because there's some topics that are hitting out in the media a lot, that when we're talking masculine and feminine behaviors, we're talking about embracing and operating as our most authentic self in powerful ways, and not about conforming to an ideal or being forced to conform to an ideal. That's that concept of toxic femininity, when you're in an organization and they say, here's the ideal, and as a woman, you must conform or you're not going to be embraced, right? And that takes away our power, that takes away our choice to negotiate how we're going to choose to behave as a leader or as a colleague in an environment. And so I really like this idea of understanding here's above the line, below the line, because we can recognize it. In my doctoral program, we had this idea of, and it comes from Ron Heifetz's writing. He's out of Harvard, but the balcony and the dance floor. So it's that being simultaneously able to see and be out on the dance floor and understand what's happening and engaging in the happening, but also be up on the balcony watching and being aware, so we can be sensitive to what's happening and quickly recognize if there's something dropping below the line, so that we can course correct, or we can help someone else course correct and come up above the line in engaging with the community that you're in. So really great
Exactly.
set of concepts with that.
I love that idea. And I am not familiar with his work, but I love the metaphor of that.
Mm-hmm.
What I loved about this about this work when I discovered it and dove into it, and I got so excited I wrote a book about it because it impacted the way that I interacted with life.
Mm-hmm.
Leadership, if we're going to be strong leaders, it starts with ourselves.
Exactly.
And the top line my book says, your power and your potential starts with your truth. So when you're truthful with yourself and you say, ooh, this happened, and I can see that I am reacting with a controlling response. So I need to notice that about where I am, and who do I really want to be in this situation? And you get the chance, because you've received yourself with compassion. I know I'm reacting, and this is probably why. How do I want to respond? Who is the person I really want to be? And instead of being controlling, I'm going to get curious and ask some questions. Help me understand about what you're talking about. Or I'm not really clear on that. Maybe you can explain that. Because right there, you're inviting somebody into the conversation. And I think we're making a connection. And when you get curious, you can't be controlling, and you can't be afraid. And curiosity really is a great place to start. I mean, there's lots of things you can do. And I love that chart, Kathryn. I have to brag about my balance your
Yeah, I really feel like it's well done, and it's set in an appropriate spot, because it's a good stage setter, right?
It is. And it does. I mean, once you have, and I've had conversations with leaders and coaching clients and friends that have read my book and said, that chart changed my life, because I catch myself before I go below the line. Or
Mhm.
you'll say, oh my goodness, that comment that I just said is a little below the line. Let me bring it back up.
And it creates a language, right? It
It
creates
does create a
language for
language.
people to say, "Oh, wait, I was below the line," or I think you even had one where mom was that below the line. Something there was some kind
Yes.
of
Yeah.
scenario. Where is that? You know, that idea of having that recognition is very similar to this other space that you have in there. And I love the concept of identifying our own and other people's energy. So I want you to describe a little bit about the impact of positive versus negative or even toxic interactions and the power of loving this phrase too, not my circus, not my monkeys.
Yeah, that's it. That is that. And I actually used that last night when I was talking to somebody about a challenge that they were having. I said, it's not your circus and it's not your monkeys. So, you just step away. I want to start with, energy. When we talk about energy, and I use energy a lot, it's a coaching term and it can be considered woo woo.
Mm-hmm.
Before I became a coach, Kathryn, I thought that life coaching was woo woo. And here I am as a life coach. And I've tried to make this book as not woo woo, but energy is. I mean, I'm more of an academic that way, but I mean, energy is real. We all have energy. When you walk into a room, you feel someone's energy. You either
Mm-hmm.
feel enthusiastic energy, or sometimes people have very quiet energy, or people have energy that takes over that makes you feel like, oh, I need to get out of here. You've heard of people that have toxic energy, very negative energy. And so that's a real thing. And so what I'm the invitation in my book is really just to notice, what energy am I picking up? I mean, you know when something doesn't feel right with you.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Before I really get into energy, I really want people to understand what's important, So I talk a lot about core beliefs. And when we understand what our core beliefs are, our core values, it's much easier to understand when someone is tromping on a core belief. And your core values keep your energy safe. So,
Yes.
I mean, your core values, and I'm making a kind of a big bubble. Your core values or like the big bubble around you that keep you safe. And when
It helps
someone
us frame our boundaries. What
it
are our
does
boundaries around what
exactly.
we're experiencing?
And your energetic boundaries are inside your core values. When someone trumps on a core belief, sometimes I think dissonant experiences really
Mm-hmm.
give us more information about our core values than resonant ones, even though those are fun to talk about. When a client comes to me and says, oh gosh, this horrible thing happened, and I'll say, okay, what core value was trumped? Maybe it was my pride or my privacy, or maybe I felt like someone didn't respect me. So
Mm-hmm.
right there you think, wow. And right there someone has infiltrated your energetic boundaries, your energy. And inside your energy, your energetic boundaries are your reserves, your energy reserves. And when people infiltrate that and you get down to into your reserves, man, you're running on fumes. No wonder you're
Yes.
reacting instead of responding. And
Yeah.
so it's really this, you can see how the system works. The core values, the the energetic boundaries, and then your energy reserves. And so you have to get familiar with energy, and oh, that person has really strong energy and they're a nice person, but I need to limit my time with them.
Mm-hmm.
Or oh, I love that person, they make me feel energized. It's an awareness. And again, I go back to being truthful with yourself. How are you feeling? If you feel it in your body that, ooh, when I'm around that person I get a stomach ache, that's
That's right.
important. That's important information.
It is good. It is good. You mentioned values, so I'd like to come back to that for a minute. We often think of values as immutable, like we have these core values, but one of the things that I think that's really important that you communicate in the book is that a given value might source from a false identity. So can you share an example of how discovering a false identity invites us to rethink our associated values?
Yes. I think I think false identities are the plague of many of us. Um, a lot of people talk about the good girl. I have to be the
Mm-hmm.
good girl. I have to be nice to everyone. And you talked earlier, Kathryn, about when we're in corporate environments where people say this is the way it's going to be, and we don't want to upset the apple cart. We think if we need to be nice. And so
Yes.
those identities about being the good girl, sometimes that it really trumps on us really stepping into our power. And so
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
coming into like, there are ways for me to be nice without being a doormat. And
Exactly.
so it's really identifying what does kind look like to me. Core values change over time. And I in the book I talk about my son having core values when he's 18 years old, when he's going off to college, and the things he values and the things that triggered him to get upset with us. And now he's a man, he's 31 years old. And I've watched these core values develop over time. You are a different person after you have children than before you have children. You are a
Mm-hmm.
different person when you've worked in the world for 10 years than you are when you're a college student, or when you're in a high school student, or when you've been working for 40 years doing something. I mean, experiences really inform and change our core values, and it's important just to be clear with what's going on. And I think I said it before, but I really believe that core values can be really helpful to us when we have dissonant experiences, because then we learn why we can't be with something and why that was hard for us. And then
Mm-hmm.
we can take care of ourselves and understand, okay, this was hard for me. So I'm going to name that was hard and why that was hard for me. I'm going to take care of myself, and then I'm going to claim an action that maybe helps me to feel better about it. And then I can reframe the experience for, oh, wow, that was really informative. I learned this about myself and I didn't know that before. I'm going to avoid situations like that in the future. So right there, you've got a name, a claim, and a reframe. I mean, I really don't think that we all have challenging experiences, but if we can harvest the goodness from them,
Mm-hmm.
every experience can be fruitful. Every experience.
There's opportunity and there's insight that we can take away and learn from and then grow. I mean, I'm a huge believer that, I had a conversation in one of my prior interviews about failure and, you know, this idea that, there are some organizations for whom, there's a shoot the messenger mentality. And then there are others that say, wow, awesome. Teach us about how you failed so that we can learn something from that and we can do better. And of course, don't we all want to be affiliated with that kind of an organization? But when we think of experiences as an opportunity to learn and grow, then all experiences have grace for us, right? There's potential in them for us to do more things. I'm going to pause this for one moment. I always do this at a point in the interview because people are watching or listening, and I'd like those of you who are watching or listening to just take a moment and think of a word that you have as a takeaway from our conversation so far. And you know where you put it. There's those comments right below the video, and add a comment and tell us what you're thinking. I respond to all comments. The system sends me a little notification, so I'll know you did it. And we appreciate hearing your thoughts. So, Andrea, tell me a little
Can I
more
stop
about.
you for a minute? That
Sure,
is
go
so
ahead.
cool. That's such a feminine response, Kathryn. Oh my goodness, because we are listening. We are making this our conversation accessible to everybody. And I love that. I mean, I thought, oh my goodness, everybody gets to be part of this conversation. And so I wanted to just point that out to you, my dear,
Thank
that
you.
you are exhibiting beautiful feminine leadership right there. So thank you.
Awesome. I appreciate that. Thank you. Thank you. Well, and here's the thing, we say that we have these podcasts, but if it's only pushing information out, then what are we learning about how that experience is supporting somebody else or not? That's okay too. I'm totally okay with learning that somebody didn't like something I said. That doesn't mean I would change it, but it does give me information on, how to be a better leader, be a better interviewer, perhaps.
In my book, I talk about feedback because that's feedback.
Mm-hmm.
And feedback is a reframe. And I think many of us are very, very afraid of feedback. I was very afraid of feedback. I viewed all feedback. I used to view all feedback as criticism because,
Mm-hmm.
and I explain why in the book, because of my sweet old dad, because that was just, there was a lot of criticism in our household. I love him, but he did criticize a lot. And so
Mm-hmm.
with feedback, which when someone asks the questions or someone gives their feedback, it's just this incredible opportunity to take another perspective. Now you get to choose how you receive it. You can say, great, thanks so much for that feedback. This is helpful and this is not. So you get to keep the gems that are helpful and you can throw out the rest, because feedback only tells us about what that person believes about their values. And
Yes,
so when we can look at it that way, it doesn't hurt as much. We think, okay,
that's
well,
right.
do I value this person's opinion? Yeah, it's my boss. So yeah, I do. But I know that they get hung up on these things. So I'm just going to take this portion of it and I'm going to throw the rest out. If it's someone that I don't know that leaves me a nasty review on Amazon, I think, you know what? You are so welcome to have your opinion, and maybe my book didn't resonate with you, and that's fine.
That's okay.
Thank you for reading it. Thank you for
We are
leaving
not for
it.
everyone, right?
We aren't.
I
We
am
aren't.
not the people who anyone who goes to my website knows that I have a whole display of running shoes, right? If I didn't have this blurred, what you'd hear, hold on, I'll clank them. These are all event medals hanging on the wall behind me. And I have those because when I coach people, one of the things that I try to help them understand is you want to keep the commitments you make to yourself, right? How do you do that? What are the ways that we can do that when we have a big dream or we want to make a change? All right, we start working out and not everything's going to go the way we want. And so that's okay. Take it, learn from it, keep moving forward, keep the commitments that you make to yourself. So that's what the shoes are all there for, amongst other things. But, people are like, do you sell shoes? I'm like, no, that's not what I do. But in coming to that, because I made that active choice, I am not going to resonate with everyone. They're going to look at that and go, she's a crazy person. And I very intentionally shifted. I have two websites. That one I'm taking down, which was my very corporate focused. It looks very professional. It has people in suits and other sort of things. And now I have this much more, we call it the low country vibe. I live in the Charleston area of South Carolina now. And so it's just a totally different set of imagery. And
So let me ask you, Kathryn, what are you noticing now? Now that when you intentionally changed your identity,
yes,
because you're switching your identity.
I did switch my identity. And I put out some blog posts and some different things that said, by the way, you're not going to see me in high heels anymore. I was trying to help create that messaging, but to understand what's behind it. And you're not going to see me, I will always be professional, but I might not suit up for you. It's going to depend on what your event is.
But there's something about you really claiming your authenticity here.
Yes,
The
that is
most
it. That is it.
authentic part of yourself. And I mean, what I'm curious about is how that changed how you felt about the forum and the things that you were putting. I mean, how did that change? Did you feel more calm? I mean, I don't know
I
what
think it
happened.
makes it more fun for me because the people who get it and the people who are ready to do their work and make their inquiries are open to, we talked a little bit at the beginning about the woo-woo idea,
Mhm.
right? I came from a program that had group relations. If you talk to a business person and set them in a group relations event, they'd think you had three horns on your head, right? And yet there's a lot of learning around how do people work in a group environment and how does that influence how successful we are or how leadership and communication happens, how collaboration does or does not occur. And so this this claiming of here's who I am, it's also here's who I am not, right? And that is a very intentional boundary that helps me find and work with the clients who are the exact right clients to go do keynotes with the exact right organizations who need to hear a particular message. And so yeah, it has actually made work a lot more fun for me.
Oh yeah,
So
because you're in
I'm
flow.
not necessarily doing different work. I'm just doing that work with different people,
You're attracting the right people.
the right people,
You're
the right
attracting the
people.
right people. I mean,
Exactly.
why not be yourself, your authentic self? Because then you're much happier. I mean, when we talked about one of the things that you had sent me, you said, let's talk about false identities. And I think that so many of us wear false identities and
Mm-hmm.
and our whole lives. And then we think, why do I feel so energetically drained? Because that's an energy suck.
It
I am
is an
so,
energy.
I have to be the good girl and I have to do these things and I have to be nice. And you know what? That person wasn't very respectful. And so I need to, you can be, I mean, I say the difference between like being assertive is say, can I ask a question? I need to let you know what's going on. These are the things that I would like to need, but let me get curious first. So there's that integration that goes on.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, right now, I talked about I'm having to put my father into memory care, and I'm doing it tomorrow, and I've had to do some fancy footwork, and I needed to get things done, and so I could feel myself getting triggered to get
Mm-hmm.
controlling, aggressive, warrior like. And I said to myself, literally, Andrea, what would the gentle warrior do? And so the gentle warrior stepped forward and she would ask questions and she would
Mm-hmm.
say, I'm going to be vulnerable with you. I'm really stressed about this. I'm really worried. I love my dad and I want to make sure he ends up. And when I did that, people just came in and said, oh, let me help you because I showed vulnerability.
Mm-hmm.
Earlier, Kathryn, you talked about the leaders that ask questions that don't know the answers, that say, oops, I made a failure, I made a mistake. You always have the choice to apologize. You know what? I'm so sorry, but I reacted to that initial response. Can I try again?
Yeah,
Let me, let me,
absolutely.
let me try again. And those are the leaders I want to follow
That's
because those are the
exactly.
people that have awareness about where they are at any given moment. And so there's a humility in that, but there's also a grace for yourself that just opens doors because you are really inviting everybody into the conversation and you are showing not just your armor, but what lies under your armor, because that's where the
Mm-hmm.
good stuff is, really. That's how you connect to people. That's how you really create community and collaboration, which is really what where I see leadership is going now.
Well, and that's a good segue because I know that you are starting a new program.
I
And of
am.
course, we want that to attract the exact right people for you. So tell us a little bit about who this is for and what they can expect. And we will also just, folks, so you know, I will include the link in the video description. So don't worry about capturing exactly. Andrea, do tell them how to get there if you'd like, but we'll make sure we include that in the material so that they can get it.
Thank you, Kathryn. We were so excited. This book just came out at the end of the year, in December 20th, and we decided what would be really neat to do is to do a name, claim, and reframe the program, where it's in a very small. I'm doing a small group coaching that is just 9 weeks, and we go through the book, but
Awesome.
it gives participants an opportunity to really dive into the themes, and with me as their coach in community, where they can really integrate. And I've written a workbook that goes with it, and it's really going to be very fun. This is the pilot, so it's priced as such, but then I'm going to be doing a fall cohort, which will be a bigger and more produced. But you can find me just on my website, AndreaDeWittAdvisors.com, in programs, and that's where you can find it. And we're always looking for courageous leaders that are looking to step into their power and potential. So check it out.
I love it. I love it. Do you have any final thoughts before we close out?
What I want to say about this message, which has just been so incredible, the journey of putting it out there, is that name, claim, and reframe is an opportunity to take your power back in a graceful, resourceful, and really intuitive way. And I love the idea of really responding to life instead of reacting to it. And I will tell you that this work, I walk my talk. This work has changed the way that I react with that I respond to the world, and it's made me a more balanced, calmer person. And I think we can use more grace and generosity and kindness in this world. I say this to people, that my message is not angry. It is really just a way for you to take your power back in a graceful way.
Awesome. Well, Andrea, thank you so much for your time. And I want to thank every single person who has taken the time to listen to our conversation. Please subscribe to the channel so you know when the next awesome convo hits the feed, as well as learn how to grow your leadership and live for today, not someday. Name, Claim, and Reframe is on Amazon. Again, you're going to look for the book. Here's the cover right here. And we will add a link into the description. Here are a few ways for you to reach out and connect with Andrea. She has her website. Her website is Andrea, ANDREA, DeWitt, DEWITT, advisors.com. I'm also going to be including in the video description Andrea's LinkedIn and Instagram connections, and again, how to get to the book. We will put the book link in there. And then I'm also going to include the link not only to Andrea's new program, but to the next free workshop that I'm going to be doing on the power of a pivot with a VIP option. That'll also be in the video description. So with one more thank you, I just want to encourage you to go forth and do great things. Thank you so much.